It is Alpha Flight Monday, my continuing series looking through all the issues of Alpha Flight from issue number 1 to, who knows, at least the end of John Byrne's run on the book. But I'll probably go a little further than that. So this is issue number 14, September of 1984, a very provocative cover. What Lurks in Lake Ontario. Now you'll remember that we are picking up the pieces here for Alpha Flight after the death of James Hudson, Guardian. So it's an interesting moment for the team. Here we get a really great, you can almost, it's a splash page, you can almost call it a pinup of Snowbird. And we get some poetry from Robert Service, The Spell of the Yukon. There's the land. Have you seen it? It's the cussedest land that I know. From the big, dizzy mountains to the deep, death-like valleys below. Some say God was tired when he made it. Some say it's a fine land to shun, maybe. But there's some as would trade it for no land on earth, and I'm one. Snowbird is returning home. Check that out. The Last Starfighter. Big movie for a lot of folks. I didn't see it when I was a kid. I saw it later in life, and it didn't do too much for me. I think that was definitely one to see when you were younger. So Snowbird is returning home. She feels the radiant power of the North flow up to her, reach out to her like warm, enfolding arms, protecting her. And you might remember during the fight with Omega Flight, she suddenly took ill. And that was because she had left Canada, where she has powers. She's tied to that land and cannot really leave it. And so there she is, and Michael Two Youngman, shaman, appears. You should not tax yourself thus just yet, Narya. You have not fully recovered from your ordeal in New York. Hey, that's the ordeal I was just talking about. Indeed, you may never fully recover. I'm a creature of the clouds and winds, Michael. Would you deny me this? Would you tell the otter not to swim, the caribou not to run? I would, if their doing so might present a threat to their well-being. You are human, too, remember. You have frailties that you must consider. So they're chatting back and forth, and as she leaves, and he's going to leave as well, and he does not see the small stain that appears to mark the stone where lately Snowbird leaned. A stain that spreads dark against the rocks until it splits like a wound in rotted flesh and drips of black bile. And from beyond this realm of mortals is heard a cry, faint and far away. The ancient gods, it seems, are not pleased with their daughter this day. So perhaps her leaving Canada is going to precipitate much bigger problems. Meanwhile, we get to the main story. Biology class. A few thousand miles away, on the outskirts of Toronto, the 3 man-made islands jut into the sprawl of the Great Lakes. This is Ontario. This is Ontario Place, home of the world's largest curved cinema screen, a fast-growing entertainment center for Canada's largest city. And so Heather and Puck are obviously there to see the show. And, she's still recovering from what she went through. And he's kind of been there with her the whole time. We could see them, chatting over things at dinner or lunch. Kind of dealing with her life, She needs to go job hunting. She only has a few $1,000s left in savings. And as we found out in the last issue, she's not going to get anything like insurance because there's no body and they really can't produce one or tell why they can't produce one. So she's in a really tough spot. And so, she's talking about Guardian. becoming leader of Alpha Flight and all that. And, and if he hadn't been, he'd still be. And we see Puck say, don't think that way, Heather. I've been all over this world, and I've seen a lot of things you'd never even dream of. And I've learned that we all have a time, a chunk of years that we can't do anything to change one way or the other. And as to Mac being the leader of Alpha, it's funny, but I've always felt, and then we get this, is it a scream? What in the name of? Woman screaming doesn't sound like a good time scream. Woman screaming doesn't sound like a good time scream either. Someone's in trouble, Heather. You stay here. And so she's going with Puck, and they're going out, and here's this woman on this, dock, and she was screaming, Miss, are you all right? What happened? She's just repeating, no, 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 no. He's trying to get, she says, her baby. And so Judd's about to get in there, and Heather just strips her shirt off and glasses, and she dives in. Even though she's not a superhero. Blast it all. It sounds like Bones McCoy. Blast it all. I was afraid of this. She holds herself responsible in part for Mac's death. Her guilt is unfounded, but she's likely to do something reckless to atone for it. So Heather's diving in. She's looking around and realizing she needs some air. And she's become stuck in these weeds and muck. So she's trying to get free so she can breathe. And we see this thing sort of reaching out for her. And so she gets up to the surface, just about, and it tugs at her. And she loses what air she had left. But she gets up. He's screaming for her. And so she's trying to get out of there, and this thing keeps on grabbing her. Make sure we have enough light on this thing. And so Puck gets a hold of her and pulls her out. So we almost have sort of like a Jaws situation here, right? And her legs have been ripped to shreds. Looks like somebody went after her with 100 razor blades. Heather, can you hear me? Don't try to move, babe. I'll find a doctor. Mac, is that you? So she's delirious at this point. This woman's freaked out as well. There's something nasty out there in the lake, and no one's going to be safe until something's done about it. So something under there, as it says, to consider, to study, to grow. Something's under there, and it's sentient. So we get to Aurora, who is taking a shower and thinking about Walter. And as she rubs the steam off the mirror, she sees her alternate self, her other personality, screaming, "Let me out!" And it seems like it's reaching out for her, and really, really freaks her out. So with Byrne, you always get that. It flips between different stories, and so again, you don't have a situation where you can you're telling Aurora's story in her own comic book or Snowbird or what have you. And so he makes sure that he kind of brings us back, to the other characters and to their lives, even in the process of telling another tale. It's one of the things that endeared the book to me, is that you do get to know everybody. So Puck's gotten Heather to the hospital. She's going, yeah, I guess I made a mess of myself. This hero business is a lot tougher than I thought. You did well, Heather. Under the circumstances, I doubt anyone of Alpha Flight could have done better, eh? You're a sweetheart for saying so, but I think not. But that thing in the lake, what was it? Is anything being done? The cops wanted to debrief me about it, but I insisted on waiting to see how you pulled through. I've got an appointment with an Inspector McMurray at 4:30. You'd better tell me all you can. So he goes to talk to this guy, and what they're finding is there have been disappearances, several of them, around this lake. And 16 people with nothing in common, nothing at all, except that they're all dead. and they all died on or near open water, eh? Just like little Timmy Rogers and very nearly Heather Hudson. What was the condition of the bodies? Now, you remember from issue, I think, number 5, where it was kind of Puck on his own. He is a fair detective. So they're trying to figure out something's in Lake Ontario, and it's stealing people, and it's killing people. And what could it be? And, of course, we've gotten a glimpse at it. Well, if we're talking undersea stuff, we're going to probably go back and see Marina and the Submariner. And we see that she's got sort of a new outfit here on. Their relationship is doing well. I am king of Atlantis, Marina, but a king without a queen is a lonely man. I need a queen, Marina. I have chosen you. Whoa. So it looks like they're going to get married. 4 more triumphs from Marvel. West Coast Avengers was a big favorite of mine. I collected that too. Actually, I collected that. I didn't collect Power Pack, but I wouldn't mind getting into that and taking a look at it now. So, they're contemplating this and what it means. And so we have like some, royal dude, interrupts they're talking. 1,000 pardons, Excellency. I had thought his lordship's negotiations concerning the entry of Atlantis into the United Nations would be of primary importance. He is right, but this business of peacetime government bores me beyond belief. And so, tell Lord Dara that I shall confer with him upon my return, Chamberlain. The matters that concern me now are not of state, but of the heart. That's kind of what you get with Subby. Subby's all about Subby. He really probably shouldn't be the king of Atlantis when you get right down to it. In the meantime, Marina has gotten the signal from Alpha Flight. And so she's appeared, comes up out of the water. Some great art here. I mean, that's one of the marks of a really good artist is that they can take. Here we just have a conversation between two people on a dock. But it's interesting. It's the layout's good. I like that particular shot here. Fantastic job. So Judd kind of tells her what's going on and this pattern of these attacks by the water. And so they're starting to think that maybe it is one of the brood from which she comes. And we saw that in the early issues when they were dealing with these weird aliens that had been sent here in prehistoric times to take this planet. And she hatched early and came into contact with a human being, so she takes the form, more or less, of a human being. And, but she has those compulsions. We've seen her turn incredibly savage as well. This is very wordy, which you don't normally get a ton of in these kind of books. But again, I like this shot, So they're talking about, basically, what they're kind of doing these pages is kind of cluing you into what happened in those earlier issues of Alpha Flight that were very focused on her. And they're going, if one of those things is down there, I might be the only one who can destroy it. And now we're going to change scenes again. And by the way, this thing right here, I was into like little army men and stuff when I was a kid. I wanted this so badly. Dude, it's like you look at, oh my gosh, it has all these things, that would come with it, and never got them. But what you do find out is these things were really tiny. They weren't that good of a deal. That's not the one with all the soldiers. All the soldiers apparently were just little tiny flat little things. They weren't like the plastic army men. So meanwhile, Calgary, Alberta, we're going to now meet the daughter, or reconnect with the daughter of Michael II Youngman of Shaman. And she's digging on this archaeological site. And so she uncovers a skull, and a white man's skull at that. And then suddenly, revenge! It's like this apparition. Gone. And it doesn't seem like any of the others even saw it. But it was real. I know it was. I feel it. An apparition, a vengeful ghost, and I've somehow let it loose. It's got to be laid to rest again, but the only man I know of who could do such a thing is someone I haven't spoken to in 15 years. Michael II Youngman, my father. Major character who's going to appear in the book for a while with a major storyline attached to her. Oh, having some trouble there with the focus. So next issue, more of the mystery, more of the strange dilemma of Snowbird, more of the macabre menace in Lake Ontario. Don't miss Blind Date. All this and a brand new inker on sale in 30 days. They're going to sell the inker in no, that's not right. So Blind Date. Well, we're not talking about the movie with Bruce Willis, which, by the way, is pretty funny. So we've gotten through that first big... Oh, look at that. That almost looks like Jim McMahon from the Bears. I know it's not, but anyways. We got through that first big storyline or story moment of Guardian being killed. We've had an issue where you see some of the pieces being picked up. And now we're launching back into sort of the regular adventure aspect of the series. And what we're getting from Byrne are like three different storylines that we're going to be pursuing. Now, the most immediate one is this thing in Lake Ontario, which seems to connect to Marina and all of that stuff with the aliens. We also get Snowbird, who's going through some kind of difficulties. And we get Michael II Youngman's daughter, Elizabeth, if memory serves, who has found this skull, this apparition, and maybe there's a connection there. We'll see, but it does launch another major story that we're going to be pursuing. So, you know, Byrne didn't rest, and he did not do in this series a whole lot of villain shows up for an issue or two, and maybe he'll show up someday again, but that's basically the end of it. It did tend to be longer, larger story arcs, connecting, building on things, etc., which I think is one of the things that made this a very strong comic book. So, Alpha Flight number 14. What do you think, folks? Did you enjoy this one? What do you think of these stories that are being launched? Where do you think they're going to go? Go ahead and leave me some comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them if I can. If you enjoyed this video, please like, maybe think about subscribing to the channel, maybe share with a friend. That would be really groovy. And until the next video, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another and try to have some fun. I will see you in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.